everybody, it's Josie. Welcome back to Cedar Creek Homestead. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day. It is really hot outside. I can't sit on the back porch. The air conditioner's running and it interferes with y'all being able to hear. So I'm out here on the front porch, and I thought we would just spend a little bit of time for our Tuesday video. And I've been missing my Tuesday videos, and I apologize for that. But sometimes life just happens, and there's really not any excuse other than to say that I'm sorry, and hopefully we get back into the swing of things. And if you're praying people, and I trust that most of you are, then just say a little prayer for me that I'll get all of my little ducks back in a row and going forward and get everything in gear. I wanted to ask you guys a question, a serious question really. Have you ever made a mistake? Made a really, really big mistake? Now, most of us that have any age on us at all in life would answer that question. Yes, we've made mistakes, and some of us have made some really, really big mistakes that have maybe cost us our job or cost us relationships. Some people have made mistakes in their marriages and they ended in divorce. Maybe you've made mistakes with your children or your grandchildren, and there's some kind of problem in a relationship there. Mistakes happen in life. I would say that most people don't really like to make mistakes. Mistakes can bring embarrassment to us sometimes. Can make us feel like a failure. I grew up in a household, and because of things that were done in that household as an adult, I have a problem with criticism. It took me a long time to learn that there is such a thing as constructive criticism. They're not meaning to belittle you. They're not meaning to hurt you in any way. But I always took it that I wasn't good enough at something, that I had made a mistake at something, that I needed to improve, and really would beat myself up. And sometimes I had made mistakes and needed to learn from those mistakes. Now, when I was a little kid, I had horrible penmanship in elementary school, and they used to grade on penmanship. And I don't remember when Blade was in school. It doesn't seem like they graded his penmanship. I know he didn't learn cursive writing, but I don't think that penmanship was one of his grades. But we were graded on that, and my parents expected you to make good grades. And that was really the worst one that I ever had, was my penmanship grade. And I can remember them making me practice at home at night, even after I had all my homework done. If my teachers were complaining about my handwriting, and some of the times my math teachers would complain about my numbers being sloppy as well, and I would have to write and rewrite and rewrite and rewrite, and I would get so frustrated with myself. Now, through the years, my penmanship has improved, and I'm glad about that, but I made a lot of mistakes. And I didn't want my teachers to notice that I made a mistake. I wanted to always put my best foot forward most of the time in class, and I would try to erase and try to make it look like I had never made a mistake. And some of you know that, sometimes you'll get an eraser that just will smudge and smear, and sometimes you've erased so many times because you can keep making a mistake, especially on math problems or some kind of equation, and you make your mistakes and you go back and you erase and erase and erase so many times that you actually erase a hole in your paper or rip your paper or smudge it to the point that it's obvious that a mistake has been made. And that's how it is in life sometimes. Sometimes it's obvious that a mistake has been made. There's a mar, there's a mark, there's a hole, that we've caused from our mistakes. There's a scar. But I want to tell you that there's not anyone in this life that's ever lived or that will live that hasn't made a mistake or going to make a mistake. And those of us that say, yes, we've made mistakes in our lifetime, we are probably smart enough to realize that in the future we'll continue to make mistakes. Now, hopefully it's not the same mistake, that we've learned from those mistakes, that we've gathered wisdom and we know how to move beyond that mistake. We've learned from it, and the next mistake will be something entirely different. Mistakes aren't always bad. Most of the time when you make a mistake, you're in the learning process, and that's a good thing, to learn new things. You don't sit down in front of a sewing machine and get your fabric out and cut out a pattern and run that pattern through and make a dress or a garment or an apron or whatever it is, curtains, whatever it is that you're making, and do it perfectly the first time. Setting a zipper, I got so frustrated and so teary-eyed trying to set a zipper the very first time that I ever had to do that, when I was in a sewing class. Riding a bicycle. You know, sometimes we make a mistake when we're learning to ride a bike, and we wobble and we turn the handlebars the wrong way, or we slam on the brakes, or we don't apply the brakes. We end up crashing our bike and falling off and getting hurt. But if we keep with it, eventually what happens? We'll be able to get on that bike and just go, go, go on that bicycle, ride them all day and have all kinds of fun when you're kids. Now, I saw this little story about an older man and a younger man were talking about mistakes, and the older man said an eraser is for people that make mistakes. And wouldn't you agree? An eraser is for mistakes, for people that make mistakes so they can correct them. The young man, he thought about what the older guy said, and he said erasers are for people that are willing to correct their mistakes. So both of them are right. They're for mistakes. But the young man was smart enough to realize that the eraser was there as a tool to correct the mistake. Now, mistakes happen in our life. Going forward, if we learn from those mistakes, we triumph over those mistakes. A lot of times people, they will want to use, if they could, an eraser to erase all the things of the past. Well, we know that that's not possible. Mistakes are made. Sometimes people are unwilling to forgive you of your mistakes. And at that point, you just have to go on. If you've done everything that you could to make it right with your Creator, with the Lord, and with the person that you've wronged, or whatever has been, whatever the mistake was, sometimes you just have to go on and let them deal with their emotions and the things that they feel with that, and you have to move forward. You know, mistakes sometimes can cripple us if we allow them to, make us fearful of trying something new. I think of everyone that has been gardening. You know, there's been a move in the last decade for sure, people getting back to farming and going into their gardens and making new gardens and trying new things. And it's so exciting to see people growing their own food and trying their hand at raising chickens and rabbits, and they move on to bigger animals, pigs and cows, and all of the things that come along with having this kind of lifestyle. But if anybody tells you that they've never made a mistake in it, I wouldn't take advice from them, because they are lying to you. Mistakes happen. Sometimes we let something stay on the vine for too long. Maybe sometimes, like me this year, I got my garden out a little bit later, and some things were planned. I purposely did my squashes later. I purposely done some things later. But my tomatoes I got out a little bit later than what I would have liked, and I haven't had a big bumper for crop of tomatoes yet. I've got a lot of tomato plants. They're looking beautiful. They've got blooms on them. But in this intense heat that we're having, I know good and well some of those blossoms are going to fall. And that could possibly be a mistake for me. But I've learned in my lifetime that you cannot beat yourself up. You can't always erase the mistakes. Sometimes the mistake is there, and you just have to learn from the mistake and move past the mistake, not to repeat it again. When you're learning anything new, there's going to be mistakes, and you just have to realize that mistakes happen. You have to prepare yourself ahead of time. If you're one of those persons that a mistake, will cripple you, or will cause you to just throw your hands up and say, I quit everything, then you need to prepare ahead of time, knowing that there could possibly be a mistake. I remember long years back, and I taught the teenage kids in Sunday school class back in Arkansas, and I had this little girl, and she was as smart as all get out. And she had something that she had written out, and she wanted me to read it. It was a list or an invitation to something. I can't really remember all the details. But she wanted me to proofread it, and I did. And she had misspelled one word, and I pointed that word out, did as she asked me to. And bless her little heart, she just fell apart. Instead of being able to just fix that, correct that one little mistake, it crippled her. She wanted someone else to complete the task because she had made a mistake and she saw herself as a failure. When I run into people like that, I wonder what has made them that way. Why are they so convinced that that mistake has made them a failure in their whole life? We know in this life that we're going to make mistakes. And I want to be one that if Blade made mistakes growing up, if the boys make mistakes, if Cheyenne made a mistake, that it's not to make them feel bad, reprimand them crossly. If it's a mistake that they were warned and they still did that, it broke the law or did something, something like that, then of course there's going to be reprimand there. But if you're doing something and you're just learning how to do that, for instance, Cheyenne has been learning how to make gravy, and there's been a few times that gravy's not what we ended up with. Now, am I poking fun at her? Absolutely not, because you know why? I went through my cycle of having to learn to make gravy as well, and there were plenty of times that I had to dump that gravy and start over again because there wasn't anybody going to eat it. And so we learn from those things. And it's teaching opportunities for those of us that already know how to do something. Don't kick them when they're down. Don't kick them when they're vulnerable to the mistake that they've made. It's a teaching time, to say, okay, let me show you something that might make it a little bit easier. It's okay to be kind. It's okay to put your arm around somebody and say, let me show you how to make it the right way, so that going forward, you'll know how to do it. Now, there's lots of things here that I still make mistakes on. I can make gravy, and I can cook and bake and do those things. But I've been doing those things a long time, and mistakes followed my path. There are things I'm having to learn now because of this season of life that I'm in after losing my Howie. He was the farmer. I was the farmer's wife. And so there was lots of things that he did I haven't had to do. Now, bless his little heart, Blade, he works out on a public job, and he's gone from early in the morning to late in the evening, especially this time of year with air conditioning season, because people want their air conditioning, and so he has to stay until the job's done. So he hasn't been able to really teach me a whole lot. I've had a few tractor lessons, and I assure you, if you were out here and you were keeping score, you would say, Tractor 5, Josie 0. This last weekend, I went out, and bless his heart, he was working in the cattle, and we have a cow that is a notorious jumper, and Blade's decided that she needs to go to the sale. So this next week, she's a beautiful cow, big and fat, beautiful, has a beautiful calf every year, but she's our problem cow, and she'll jump a fence, and if she breaks it, she doesn't care, and then the other cows follow in behind her, and so she's a leader, but she's a bad leader, and so she'll be going to the sale. But he was out there in the heat, and him and Cheyenne, I had the boys, and they worked, and he come in exhausted, knowing that that the fence was going to have to be repaired. They were in another pasture, but this fence is going to have to be repaired. So I went out there, and I thought, well, if nothing else, I'll look up some YouTube videos, and I'll watch somebody fixing the fence, and I'll learn how to fix it. Not so easy. I did a lot of things wrong, And I was out there on that fence line just praying and crying at the same time. And I was talking to the Lord, saying, Lord, I have no idea what I'm doing. I wasn't the fence builder of the family, and the Lord knows that. And I thought, what am I going to do? And here come my little son, and he took the fence pliers out of my hand and the bucket of fencing tools that I had, and in no time he had it easily repaired, temporary repaired, so that they couldn't jump back through there again. And I thought, wow, thank you, Lord, for that, because I had no idea what I was doing. Mistake on my part, but I'm not letting myself, I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I just know that I don't know anything about fencing, and knowledge is part of that. I need to learn how to do it. I need to have some hands-on teaching on that, and go forward from there and apply that knowledge, and be with people that have wisdom. You know, it's one thing to read a book or watch a YouTube video on how to do it, but until you apply that knowledge and with the wisdom know how to do it, and we continue to make mistakes. So see, there's times that I just mess up myself and make mistakes, and I don't think any of us ever get to a place where there are no mistakes. When we make those mistakes, we just need to pick ourselves up and dust ourselves off and try again. Try to make another pan of gravy. Try to patch that fence. Try to figure out those problems. And if we make a mistake again, then we continue to persevere until it's accomplished. We need to remind ourselves that we all have a past and that we all have made mistakes. You know, we don't put it on a sliding scale and try to measure your mistakes against my mistakes. Which one of us have made the most mistakes in our life, because that's unfair and it doesn't matter. Everybody has their own personal mistakes, and it's all between us and the Lord anyways. The Lord is the one that takes care of those things, and you know, we can do our best to make things right, and going forward we try to accomplish. And remember, there's always room to try to correct the error. Now we want to remember to not look back. You know, don't waste your time looking back, because you're not going that direction. You're going forward. And can we learn from our mistakes? Yes, we can. We can learn from those mistakes, not to repeat the mistakes again. And I think that we need to be fair to ourselves. Quit beating ourselves up over the things that has been done. And once we, you know, try to make everything right, then we've done what we could do. Never until we check out of this world do we quit learning. In the learning process, there's mistakes. There's been times that I have made a recipe for supper that I've made 100 times. And we sit down for dinner and start eating, and I think that doesn't taste quite like normal, and then realize later that I totally left out an ingredient. It was a mistake, but it didn't kill us, and we survived to make a mistake another day. I just wanted to encourage you guys today that don't let the mistakes in this life keep you from trying again. In whether you're on a farm like I am, you're trying to garden for the first time. Maybe you planted something. I planted peppers 3 times this year, and now I've got peppers. Now I'm not sure. I think that my peppers will make before we have the first frost of the year, unless we have a early frost, and that could happen, and I'm prepared for that. But I don't know. My sweet peppers usually will ripen before the hot peppers do. So I don't know what kind of pepper harvest I'll have. There were some mistakes made on my part. And like I said, I had to plant 3 times, but I didn't give up. And don't you give up either. If it doesn't work the first time, if this year your garden is a bust, try again next year. If you, try to set the sewing machine and sew a garment, or try to set a zipper in something that doesn't work the first time, keep trying, keep learning. We learn from our mistakes and we get better, or we should. And so I just want to encourage your hearts today. Not let the mistakes get you down. Don't let the mistakes cause you to quit. We're all better when we learn from them and we apply our newly acquired wisdom to our lives. Until next time, guys, I'm going in the air conditioning. It's hot out here. And I got to get supper on anyways, but finish up our daily chores. I still got laundry to do and dishes. You know how it is. And until next time, guys, this is Josie. I love you all. I really do. Keep looking well to the ways of your household. Be kind to yourself and those around you. Until next time, we're gone.